Hi everyone, I'm Edward and I wanted to share my favorite digital artists that you could check out since their works are awesome. And I will first talk about the artists that inspired me to become an artist when I was younger. And then I will talk about my favorite artists today since my tastes have changed over the years. So the first artist that I wanted to introduce is Yuumei. She was one of the first digital artists that I found on DeviantArt, and she was like the introduction to my digital art journey. I remember the first thing I ever saw from her was this 3D background tutorial, and even though I never got to really apply the knowledge from this tutorial, I thought this was like so cool, and I didn't know it was even possible to use tools like that to paint. And I remember finding Yuumei when I was at my favorite Korean barbecue with my family, and I was just on my phone and I was just scrolling through tutorials, and I found this one and I was really excited, and I looked at her other tutorials, and that first sparked my interest in digital art. Like, I didn't know back then besides like drawing with pencils and like traditionally, but Yuumei was my first look into like painting in Photoshop, or at least painting in Paint Tool SAI. And going through this tutorial rabbit hole on DeviantArt, I found Qinni, who is the second artist that I wanted to introduce and was one of my favorites back when I was younger. I really loved this tutorial that she made, and I thought it was super beautiful, and it kind of made me want to make tutorials too. Like, I was so impressed by the rendering here of the mermaid and cat, and it's been years since I looked at her work, but I really loved her works. Like, it kind of very atmospheric and interesting, and I just wish I got to support her more when she was alive. Like, I think it's very sad we lost her so early. Like, yeah, but I hope she's somewhere better now, and hope one day when I'm better at art to do this challenge stars for Qinni. I still never got to finish that challenge. I hope to do that in her honor. But yeah, she really inspired me back then, and yeah, she's super cool, and her art too, so go check her out if you haven't already. And lastly, this this isn't very safe for work, but back then, like, Sakimichan was like my introduction. Oh no, I'm trying to scroll to the safe for work stuff. I preferred her old style. Like, Sakimichan was my introduction to Photoshop and digital painting on there, and a lot of the techniques I learned are from her. I remember finding Sakimichan during math class when I was in high school. It was like after lunch, and I just was on my laptop, like the school laptop, and I just remember seeing her Jack Frost, I think. This one, yeah, this painting on the main page, or the daily deviation, or I think that's where I first saw her, and I was so impressed. I didn't know you could make such realistic looking art with Photoshop. Like, I didn't even know it was possible, and that was my introduction to her. But these days, I can't say I really into her art. Then it's a little mature, you know. But a lot of these tutorials I bought when I supported her on Patreon, and she's still like one of my favorite artists because she like made it, and she's one of the most successful independent artists, I think, and she's super inspiring. So I hope one day I could get to her skill level because she renders super well in my opinion, and I always wanted to paint characters like her, and I'm still super far from there. Okay, so those were the three artists that I loved when I was younger, but nowadays I prefer more of a realistic style. So Rencha is like one of my all-time favorites. Like I love the way he paints so detailed and so realistically, but also so stylized at the same time. And I just love his brushwork, and he really inspired me to paint with a textured brush because I really love this painterly quality, and one day I hope I could paint as well as him. But yeah, he's like my favorite because he just look at how inspiring like the clothing textures look so real and it's so beautiful. And in the past I did like an anime style, like as shown in the previous examples of my favorite artists, but Rinja is like a different approach. I think he also has like this influence of anime and stuff, but he just makes it more realistic. And some of my favorite paintings are I really like this painting from him. It's one of my favorite paintings from him. I just love the way he draws clothing and lighting. Like I think it is so subtle, like the lighting on the hand and the umbrella is like so peaceful and beautiful. And one day I hope I could attain such mastery. And I just love the way Rencha draws clothing. Like that's the thing I like most about his painting, is just how he renders clothing and the brushwork as well. It looks so detailed, and I kind of wish I had such skill, but I know one day if I keep practicing a lot, I'll get there hopefully. But yeah, he's one of my favorite artists recently for a few years now, and there's another artist similar to Rencha that I wanted to introduce. His name is Huang Guang. He's another Chinese artist, and I found him 2 years ago. And one of my favorite paintings from Huang Guang is this one of an angel like fighting against these people. Like I just find this painterly style so beautiful, and the lighting is super dramatic and so interesting. Like I feel like the more you look at it, the more details you could find, like this statue and like these windows, like stained glass windows, and like how this like a statue that's broken, and it's just so cool. And I really like his storytelling. Like I think he focuses a lot on storytelling since he has a more like classical approach. I think you could see that Wang Guangqing is really inspired by the old European masters, and he kind of inspired me to go to art school in Europe because I just thought his academic approach from like the European academic painting way method is just like really everything in his works. And I just hope one day I could paint like faces and objects so nicely. And his rendering style is also really interesting. It's very soft at times, but it's also very painterly here and in other areas. And one day I hope I could also paint like that. Recently I really do love his textured approach. I also like the smooth rendering he has. Is a little different from Rain Cha's art, but still super cool. Of course, one of my most favorite artists is WLOP. I still don't know how to say his username, but he just makes such beautiful art. This was one of my favorite pieces from him. Like the way he drew the dress is just so painterly, and the couch, and it's just so beautiful the way the light shines. The pose of the figure, and yeah, it's just really inspiring. Like, I think lighting is one of my favorite things about painting or looking at painting. Like, it's just looking and inventing light situations. And I remember doing a presentation on this painting for my German class, and because we had to do a presentation on a favorite artist we had, I think, and I just chose WLOP since back then he really was my favorite, and he still is one of my favorite. But these days I kind of prefer a more rendered approach. I find that even though I like his textured brushes, I feel like it's a little unfinished at times, and I kind of really enjoy really rendered out pieces these days. But his lighting is just so amazing, and I love him still as an artist. Like, one time I messaged him on Patreon when I was still a subscriber to him, and he just messaged me some advice and just told me that he wishes me good luck and to just focus on painting clothing and stuff too. And yeah, he's super great. Love him and his works. My favorite pieces are stairs. Like, I just love the way he mastered perspective. I really love his use of storytelling. Like, every painting he makes is almost like the characters are always doing something, and he's always telling a story, since a lot of his works are for his comic book, I think. Like, yeah, and he's just so good at lighting. I really love this painting too. I love the way he like could draw in different perspectives, and one day I hope to be able to do that too. But yeah, I just really like looking at his earlier works too. Like, you could see the passion through his brushwork, and yeah, it's just so cool how he mastered lighting and perspective like this. Just looking at his paintings makes me want to draw too. Okay, the next artist I wanted to introduce is Mam BA. She's a concept artist from South Korea, and I really love her style. Like, painterly but very rendered out most of the time. I just love the way she draws. Like, she is one of my favorite these days. Like, I really enjoy the way she draws so realistically, but also very stylized at the same time. Like, her face, the way she draws faces are always so good. I think she, out of all of the artists I really love the way she draws and paints faces the most. I feel like they're very, like, the eyes are very, like, it looks like they're looking through you, if that makes sense. Or they're like just very the way she draws eyes is very expressive. I just love that. I think she draws guys really well too. Like, I always struggle with drawing guys, but I think she like mastered it. And I think a lot of people like either specialize in drawing girls or like guys, but I think she could draw both super well, and I just love the way she paints. Even though I'm not like a concept artist, I think her specialty is just like illustration, like this one, where I just really love the storytelling and lighting. It's super inspiring, and one day I hope to try something like that where it's combines all the elements from all my favorite digital painters. And yeah, but last but not least, my favorite, one of my all-time favorites is Jung Gi, and I just love the way he draws. Like, he's so inspirational. But it's too bad that he passed away a few months ago, and I think the world lost one of the best artists ever. I think he really was was like one of the most technically skilled artists ever. Like the way he could draw from his memory and imagination is just so cool, and I want to one day, hopefully, if my dream isn't too big, to just be like the digital painting version of Jung Gi, and he really inspired my study approach and practice approach these days, because I read in one of his interviews that he used to draw an object obsessively until he could draw it from memory. Then he would just add piece by piece other objects and into his visual library, and he would just day by day increase his knowledge. And I hope one day I could draw so well, like you could just see the passion in his art, because he just drew so much. I think in his sketchbooks he made like thousands of drawings, and he was such a master at perspective, and I hope one day I could get better at perspective too, so I could tell my own story. But yeah, rest in peace, Kim Jung-gi. It's too bad, because I really wanted to see the art he would have made when he was older. But yeah, it's too bad. But yeah, I'm sorry to end it on a kind of sad note. But yeah, these are just my favorite artists, and I hope you check them out if you like. One day I hope I could be as good as them, but I really need to practice a lot more, and hopefully one day I could become someone's favorite digital artist too, and inspire others to fall in love with digital art, just like the way Yuumei, Qinni, and Sakimichan introduced me to digital art, and that kind of changed my whole life. So one day I hope I could attain enough skill to inspire someone to become an artist. that would be so nice. I think, like, if I could do that, but I need to work harder to achieve that. If you want to watch my video on how I practice still life painting, you can click here. Thank you and bye bye.